How you doing, Josh?
Good. I'm happy to be here again with you, Dan. I'm always excited to record these, and I always walk away from them feeling encouraged, and that's just I pray that that's the same feeling people have when they're listening to
Yeah, I hope so too. I often think this is the best one we've ever done.
it. And then I go home at night, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I like that one.
No, I do. I think I listen to them and I go. I actually told somebody this week that our episode following our 1 year anniversary episode was like one of our best. Really, I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I think I told you recently. I just randomly messaged you because I was listening to one after you had finished publishing it, and I was like, man, I was remembering just recording it with you and the fun that we had. I was like, that was a great one to record.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
This story that I got here is from MLive. MLive is a Michigan regional news source group.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why do we always hear so much about Michigan on this podcast?
I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
I like to bust your chops over Texas, but I'm not going to do it.
Well,
I wouldn't mind listening to some Texas news if you got it.
I was making a joke like, if people don't already know, we live in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I thought you were...
Although I
you were
could be
talking about my bias.
Okay, I could say, Dan, if you love Michigan so much, why don't you marry it? Yeah.
Well, maybe I will be able to someday.
That's probably coming.
You're free to get all the Texas.
You can marry whatever land you want.
Yeah.
Who am I to stop you?
It's my life. Well, there are some weird things that happen here. And this story comes off of MLive, and I thought this was pretty weird, among the weirder.
Okay.
A representative with the Satanic Temple, West Michigan, was slotted to give the opening prayer at an upcoming Ottawa County Board meeting after the board recently adopted a, quote, first come, first serve rule about invocations.
Oh. Oh, my.
Oh, my. The speaker is scheduled to attend... Okay, Ottawa County is on the coastal side of Grand Rapids. So if Michigan's the mitten, it's on the... it's close to the left side of your wrist, almost all the way to the actual wrist. Not quite. Probably 5 hours, I'd guess, from Chicago or less.
For those of you listening, Dan was pointing on his hand as he was doing it.
Did I say this?
You can't say it.
I said that side of my wrist. Right?
No, I was saying that you're actually holding your hand up and doing it. So, because that's the joke about Michiganders. They're always holding their hand up and saying, I live here.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ottawa County, coastal side of Grand Rapids. The speaker was scheduled to attend the April 23rd board meeting.
Who are they invoking? Like, do I want to know?
Oh, yeah, you'll find out in a second.
Okay.
The representative with the Satanic Temple.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
A self-described ordained minister with the Satanic Temple of West Michigan spoke during a May 2023 public comment period at a board meeting, and he gave his name as Bender Bones.
What? What?
In an email to MLive on Thursday, March 21st, Bones said his group followed specific rules established in January for groups to get scheduled as invocation speakers. County commissioners adopted the new policy about 3 months after a Grand Haven minister filed a lawsuit claiming religious discrimination. So, separate story, a progressive pastor asked to speak and believed he was ignored. The pastor said he had asked the board chair and others twice by email and by U.S. Postal to allow him to give the invocation in an earlier part of 2023. The progressive pastor said that his name is Jared Kramer, said that his requests were ignored. He believed no one responded because he supported LGBTQ rights. So this progressive pastor wanted to say the prayer. He got ignored, probably because of, my guess is bureaucracy, right? They're saying they didn't ignore him. It just didn't, for whatever reason. So he thought it was because it was progressive. So that led to this decision to do a first come, first serve policy.
Ruined it for the rest of everybody.
Bones in the email to MLive talked about the Satanic Temple. This is his quote. We are a non-theistic religious organization, which, by the way, the words non-theistic religion are that's a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
Right? You can't be non-theistic religious. Religion means expressing your belief in the divine. Man's expression of his belief in the divine.
Right, and he's saying that because he believes in Satan.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's going to go into that.
Okay.
We are a non-theistic religious organization that was founded in 2017. We maintain a membership of diverse and passionate individuals who feel a drive to serve their community and live in accordance with the noble pursuits described within the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple. Our membership, both in and outside of Ottawa County, are excited to be represented by our Satanic Ministry, and our Satanic Ministry is excited to partake in the tradition of invocation that takes place before county meetings. Have you ever wondered to yourself, what are the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple?
I don't think so, but there's a little bit of curiosity to me. I'm just being honest.
You've never wondered this?
Yeah. Oh, wait. I do know some of them because our friend Cody came on here, and I think he rattled off a couple of them, saying the context here is, if you haven't heard that episode, he was saying some of his friends who kind of believe more of that way. Maybe in context, it was some of his older friends.
Yeah,
he's a newer Christian.
I don't remember the specific ones.
They were trying to say, I may be misquoting him, may not even be his friends, just somebody he's talking about in that episode, saying, well, the tenets of Satan are actually good things. They appear to be good things, but you start reading them and you're, well, man, I'm about to go on a rabbit trail here. Go ahead.
I'm about to read them.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, number 1. This is not part of the article. This is just what I looked up because I thought that's an interesting idea. So I opened my browser with, in incognito mode because I don't need that in my,
Yeah, you start getting
history.
Facebook ads like, here's a Ouija board.
Yep. More like TikTok ads. Just kidding. What?
Yeah, same thing.
No.
Did I say that?
No,
Yeah.
Whoops. Tenet number 1. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. So what is it saying there? It's saying, do what's right in your own eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did that in Judges.
Wait a minute. They had no God, and they did whatever was right in their own eyes.
Yeah, and then when that judge that led them to prosperity disappeared, suddenly they went back to that.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Number 3. One's body is invoidable, subject to one's own will alone.
Oh.
Lot we can unpack there.
That's straight out of You Will Be Like as Gods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. Number 5. Yeah. Number 5, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's own belief.
This kind of sounds like it could be summed up in lean on your own understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's like, yeah, those are good things. I mean, in a way, but they kind of contradict the other ones, right? It's like justice is more important than laws or institutions, unless that institution has to be science.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It almost is like the whims of where the science is at.
Well, I don't really want to, and even really, we've talked in other episodes about trying to understand people from where they're coming from, right? So even in this case, I'm really including this because I want to understand it from where this person.
I can see why people are interested in following this belief system because it sounds decent to some people. On
its face, it definitely is not something I completely, I wouldn't.
Well, isn't that like Satan though? The fact that Satan doesn't tell us an obvious lie. He tells us something very close to the truth, but it's subtle.
But it's subtle, right?
Right.
And I would dig in on some of these things, right?
Yeah.
If the person was here with us now, we can dig in on some of these things.
Yeah.
And this guy isn't writing this. This guy is just saying that that's what they follow. And then I pulled this off of their website. Number 6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. Okay. Number 7, the final tenet of the Satanic Temple. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's concerning.
The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice, I guess, as you see fit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Over the written word.
Over the written or spoken word.
Yeah.
Yeah. When asked about the message, this is continuing with the article from MLive. When asked about the message to be delivered April 23rd, Bones said it had not yet been drafted. Quote, but typically invocations involve self-empowerment and affirmations, dispelling superstitions and holding fast to reason, embracing knowledge, and standing against arbitrary authority, and that which threatens our own personal sovereignty, Bones wrote. During the May 2023 public comment period, Bones thanked the board and the Ottawa Impact, an ultra-conservative group that gained control of the board in January 2023, for adopting the Constitutional County Resolution. Our constitutional rights are our most cherished assets in the United States, and even more so as Satanists, he said. So that was the end of that article, but I found another one, a continuation. Originally, I found this article, and then I found the other one that occurred before it, explaining the situation. Second article. When a member of the Satanic Temple of West Michigan says prayer at an Ottawa City board meeting Tuesday, it's likely to cause a stir. Opponents are calling for a large turnout and asking the public to, quote, be ready to sing praise and worship at any time.
Man.
Quote,
well, that's Satan has wanted worship since the beginning.
No. Follow me here.
Okay.
Opponents. People against him.
Okay. What about worship? The opponents are breaking out in worship?
Right. Opponents are calling for a large turnout.
Oh, okay.
When you oppose them, you're calling for the large turnout.
I see. Okay.
I know I'm moving kind of fast, so I apologize.
Yeah.
Asking the public to be, quote, ready to sing praise and worship at any time. Quote, we need to have our spiritual armor on and be vigilant at all times, said Ken Bayer in a Facebook video intended to encourage a mass showing of Christ's followers at the meeting. They hope to pack the boardroom, the foyer, the public space outside the county building. But leaders with the Satanic Temple of West Michigan say their organization's moniker belies their purpose. Quote, our mission is to spread benevolence and empathy and our noble pursuits of compassion, wisdom, and the pursuit of justice, as well as be an agent against tyrannical actions of laws and arbitrary authority, said Bender Bones, co-head of the West Michigan section. The group's members are atheists and don't believe in Satan or God. Bones readily acknowledges his name is a pseudonym, which he calls a safety precaution.
Oh, okay. I actually was just wondering that. Is that his real name or an alias?
Yeah, he's just keeping himself safe, I guess.
That's a weird alias to pick, though.
I know. Maybe he really likes Futurama. He explained the use of Satan in the group's name by saying this. We believe the scientific method as kind of our guide to what we determine to be the truth in the world, he said. So we use Satan as a literary figure that represents enlightenment, value, and rebellion against arbitrary authority. There is a lot of allegorical senses that come from the figure of Satan, he said. He will not be giving the invocation, but another member of the group will speak for the allotted 3 minutes. He declined to outline the speech, though. The door was open for the Satanic Temple of West Michigan to give the Ottawa City County Board invocation, a staple for many years, when the commission in January adopted a new policy on who could speak. Commissioners changed the policy after a Grand Haven pastor filed a lawsuit saying that he was not selected because of his cultural stance. So the county board denied the allegation and said it was a simple oversight. The new policy allows pastors to speak on a first-come, first-served basis so long as they contact the district commissioner and get on a list of speakers. When it was announced in March that the Satanic Temple would be the speaker, Moss issued a statement that referenced the new policy. He made the point to say the group had not been specifically invited. Bones said his group wanted the chance to speak because, quote, we are people who are active in the community. We as civilians often find ourselves to be politically active as well, so it's just kind of just a way to make sense for us to do our satanic work and contribute to the community as well. Leaders of the Satanic Temple of the West Michigan acknowledged on April 19th Facebook post that they would likely face protest on Tuesday. They advised their supporters not engage with protesters and, quote, respect the freedoms of others who petition or assemble against us. Moss, in an email to MLive, said that he expects the public will be well-mannered at Tuesday's meeting. I expect there will be more people than usual and that people will be respectful as always. I look forward to hearing from constituents during public comment. So what are your thoughts?
Man, my thoughts are, on one hand, it's just the same old tactics. Like I said, the subtlety, and it's sounding like, oh, they're just out here doing good. I got to be careful how I put this next part, because I'll just say this. I won't name them. There's a group that may be in your town, definitely in this town where we're sitting at right now, recording this, and they have all these meeting places. It's not the Satanists, but they have these meeting places, and they enjoy community involvement. I think that was one of the tenets, was something about community involvement, helping people in the community. And this other group I'm thinking of really prides themselves on it, and they're always looking to donate, especially in smaller towns. They're looking to donate a high number of donations to it, and it's like, it sounds great on the surface, but it's like, what's really going on? They want to elevate themselves into a place of power, and they also want people to be beholden to them. They want people to kind of feel like, oh, that's okay, you can just owe me. The check will come due at some point, And so they kind of seem like these benevolent people, but it's kind of scary to me, because essentially what they're doing is the way I view it as is what they're saying on the service of like helping people, serving people. That's what the church is commanded to do. It's what God commanded His church to do, right? Is to be that light, and now I would say the churches across America are failing at that job. And what's coming is these imitations to come in and do that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing that happened in Moses' day. He tried to do a miracle, or I should say he did perform a miracle, and then Jannes and Jambres, the wizards of Pharaoh, came and they tried to imitate it. And they had a cheap imitation a couple of times. First time, they made the snakes, and Moses' staff that turned into a snake ate those snakes. So that's kind of what's in my mind as you're saying it, like the subtlety of Satan and the what's it called, like posing himself as a doer of good.
Yeah. I think a lot about this kind of stuff, and I think when we hear news like this, when we hear that some kind of weird thing, like I said that in the beginning, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to freak people out. But I'll tell you this, and I really mean this. This doesn't bother me in the least little bit. Mm-hmm. I am reminded of 1 Kings 18 in the story. So there's a famine in the land, and I'm gonna summarize some of this because it's kind of long. There's a famine in the land, and the Lord tells Elijah, He says, "Go find Ahab, and I'll send rain on the earth." And Elijah leaves out to go do this. And at the same time, Ahab and Obadiah decide that they're going to go through the land and try to find water. Obadiah meets up with Elijah, and Elijah says, "Go tell Ahab Elijah is here." And Obadiah says, "Ahab's going to kill me for just telling him." And Elijah says, "No, he won't. He'll see me today." So he's like, "No, don't worry about it. He'll see me." Ahab tells Elijah, and Ahab sees Elijah, and Ahab says, "Is this you troubler of Israel?" In verse 18, now I'm quoting, he said, "I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house have, because you have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and you have followed the Baals. Now then, send and gather me all Israel at Mount Carmel, together with 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table." So Ahab gets everyone together. In verse 21, Elijah came near to all the people and said, "How long will you hesitate between the two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him." But the people did not answer him a word. And Elijah said to the people, "I alone am left a prophet of the Lord, but the Baal's prophets are 450 men. Now, verse 23, let them give to us 2 oxen. Let them choose 1 ox for themselves and cut it up and place it on the wood. Put no fire under it, and I'll prepare the other ox and lay it on the wood, and I will not put a fire under it. Then you call in the name of your God, and I'll call in the name of the Lord. And the God who answers by fire, he is God. And all the people said, that's a good idea. So Elijah tells the prophets of Baal to get ready, and they do. And then verse 26, the second part of verse 26, they prepared it, and they called on the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, "O Baal, answer us." But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they leaped about the altar which they had made. And it came about at noon that Elijah mocked them, and I love this part. He says, "Call out with a loud voice, for he's a god. Either he's occupied or gone aside or is on a journey, or perhaps he's asleep and needs to be awakened." I mean, could you imagine the scene there? He's like, yell a little louder. Maybe he doesn't hear you.
Yeah, he's probably sleeping.
So they cried with a loud voice and cut themselves according to their custom with swords and lances until the blood gushed out on them. When midday was past, they raved until the time of the offering and of the evening sacrifice, but there was no voice, and no one answered, and no one paid attention. And Elijah said to all the people, "Come near to me." So all the people came near to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord which had been torn down. And so Elijah does a little preparing of his own. And in verse 36, at the time of the offering of this evening sacrifice, Elijah the prophet came near and said, "O Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, today let it be known that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Lord. Answer me, that these people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have turned their heart back again." And then fire came from the Lord and fell and consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. When all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, "The Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God." So you see here, it's a sign of sad times that someone thinks that their wailing to know God is useful, but ultimately faith in the God of the universe renders this small, minuscule even.
Yeah.
Would you be upset if a little bird tried to kick a few rocks off a mountain? Hard to be upset about that. I feel for the people who think that they're putting their faith in anything that amounts to more than philosophy. I'd rather be on my way concerning myself with what matters and not with what doesn't.
Yeah, think about the verse that says, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. This is what we're talking about here. He that is in the world is Satan, and he that is in you, dear Christian, is Christ. Christ in you, the hope of glory.
Yeah, I think when they want to do it, they want to be Satanists or carry a card that says they're a Satanist or say that they're an atheist or whatever. But to try to pretend that somehow what they're going to do is going to undo what God's doing, it's just
right.
It's just not going to happen. A little bird is not going to kick a few rocks off a mountain and have the whole mountain crumble.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's so ineffective to do that. And it's like, I feel for them for putting so much faith into something that is not amounting to anything.
Mm-hmm.
I met a person one time, and I to this day, I don't know if this person was being serious or not, although it did seem like he was being serious, who considered himself philosophically a Jedi. If only it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Okay? And it all came down to, in the end, this conversation about doing what's right in your own eyes. Because he was talking about the conversation that gets had in the end of episode 3, I think, between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Before he turns into Darth Vader, when he said, "Only a Sith deals in absolutes." Right? And it's like, there's this whole conversation that goes on there.
I watched that originally as, I think I was a teenager, and that sentence irked me. And I wasn't super biblically minded back then, but I was like, yeah.
There's a whole exchange that happens there.
Right.
And that's sort of like, if you watch the whole story.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at, he says, something about how this is evil. The senator is evil or whatever. Emperor Palpatine is evil, and he's like, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. That's what Anakin's saying.
And so this guy, it all came down to that. But he philosophically, and you could say religiously, I guess.
Sure,
call it a religion. His expression of the divine was literally tied to Star Wars.
Yeah, that's essentially George Lucas's take on religion was the Force. Like, it's representative, I think, of his actual worldview.
Well, in any case, my point was I feel for this person who is wasting so much energy.
Yeah.
And it's like it's all gonna amount to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because at the end of the day, it's a man's creation in a story.
Yep.
Right, and they might say that that's what Christianity is.
Mm-hmm.
They might believe that. They might say, well, that's just a story that someone made up. But it does come down to faith, right? It's like your faith does not make it so. But at the end of the day, it's going to take a leap of faith to believe.
It's absolutely faith that's how we are saved. Whereby you are saved, it takes faith.
Mm-hmm.
In the same vein, though, I would also try to encourage somebody that God is a God of logic. He created logic. He created our minds. And there is more evidence of the existence of Christ and everything he did for us, for salvation, than any other human being on this earth. So it does take faith, but it's not like you have to. I've had conversation with people who are really intellectual, and they're like, well, I can't be a Christian just simply because I can't dumb down my mind to fit around this narrative. It's like, well, you don't have to.
Yeah. So do you, how do you find that? Do you feel like, okay, you want to be free to be, to express your faith in public and stuff like that? Do you feel like a kinship with that person who's the Satanist that wants to pray at the public thing? Because, or do you feel like as a believer, or not really, not every part of you is a believer, but I'm saying as a free American, do you feel like, yeah, he should be able to do that? Do you?
It's a complicated question, because on one hand, I would die for, in the military, like I would be sacrificial in a way to die for the freedom, which is the vehicle that they are utilizing, but I would not die for the principle that they're using that vehicle to deliver. So I think you have to separate that. Like, as an American, you want freedom of speech because today it's taken down the Satanists, tomorrow it's taken down the Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not say we need to counter freedom of speech, but I'll just say this, and I don't even know how to disclaim this. I would not commit acts of violence toward. First of all, I'm not talking about people. What I am talking about is destruction in this vein. If God, for some reason, God said, "Do you remember what I came to Gideon and said to him? I want you to do the same thing with this idol over here that represents what they're worshiping." I would do something like that, but I wouldn't take away somebody's freedom of speech. If God said, "This is in the people group in here that I want glory from, this is robbing glory from me over here with this false idol worship." If God told me to do that, which I don't see that happening, because that was a specific instance in Judges where God told him, go take down the idol of Baal. And I think it was specifically because it was an idol that was being worshipped by his chosen nation of Israel at that time. And I don't think America is God's chosen nation. So, but, if that was, I'm not opposed to doing something like that. So it's kind of a twofold answer to your question. Like, I would die for the freedom of speech, but I'd also wouldn't. I would go and take down an idol if I was told to.
Yeah, I think that we should allow. I think we definitely should make room for those people at those public displays like that. Mm-hmm. I think we should also extend it to people who love football. And I think we should extend it to people who love themselves and people who love all the things that they shouldn't. And let's branch this out to all the idols so that we can show all the idols in one. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like Elijah in this, where I'm going, yeah, let them yell at all they want. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let them pray to the whatever team, that they love and show how ridiculous it is to be an idol worshiper. Not to say like there's anything. I mean, look, it's in grace, right? It's like I understand like I have flaws just as much as anybody else, but my point is like let them.
Yeah.
See what good it does. It's like they don't have any power in this situation at all. They're like so too little, too late.
Yeah, I think, and you might have implied this already, but I want to go right out and say it, that when you're using the example of Elijah, I think we as Christians have to be careful that we don't use Elijah as an example of complacency on the issue, because Elijah had that mindset of, you can do whatever you want because I am stepping up as the prophet and I'm going to boldly declare my God and he's going to win out. So you can't just say, yeah, let him do whatever you want. You also have to have the boldness that Elijah had to declare your God and to wrought a victory in the name of the Lord. Mm-hmm. It's not simply go and do what you want because I'm going to sit here and camp out by the pool. No, you are actively marching to the drumbeat of God's army, and you are being bold to carry out the message. Rather than us infighting with those people, it should just make us more and more bold for our stand for Christ and our faith.
Yeah, I definitely maintain that at the end, I still want the freedom of speech for myself. I still want to be able to support my church and have my church and not be under threat of violence. And I regularly pray that, like, at different functions, whenever I get the chance to pray, I'll say, like, thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to do this without threat of violence against us, because that is not the case in some places, but I guess my point was just like, if they think they're accomplishing something, then I mean, they're going to see that they aren't.
I think a real life example, I'm not going out and advocating that everybody go and do this, but I think a real life example, present day, rather than going on a mountaintop and making altars and all that kind of stuff, I think you could very well, Holy Spirit led, you could see, okay, this guy's drawing a crowd for this Satanist crowd. He's winning people over to the idea. I'm going to go and have a civil discourse with this person, and then maybe other people watch, and then you just present the truth of God's word in comparison to that. And I think that will win out. If it's done in the power of the Holy Spirit with the truth of his word, you can win out in that. And to me, that's a modern-day, present-day version of the Elijah versus the false prophets.
Yeah. Well, I just love the confidence, and I love the boldness, and I love the faith in that moment. You know what I mean? That's where I'm coming from here, really, more or less, is, ain't it cool to be bold in the Lord?
Right. Yep. The Bible says the righteous are bold as a lion.
Yeah, and you feel like you may feel like it's a losing battle when you hear news like this. Mm-hmm. You may be rattled by something so overt as to be a prayer offered, a quote, I put that in quotes, a prayer offered at a public, at a city council. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You may be rattled out there when you hear about it, but rest assured, the Lord is not rattled.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. He's not rattled at all. He can't be rattled. Right. And so it's like, he wants us to be that way as well. Well, what does that look like? That means when we hear news like this, we have confidence in him and in no other thing, and not in philosophy or the 7 tenets of Satanism, or confidence in the political system or whatever. So all that to say, boldness is cool, and it's cool to have faith, and it's cool to be unmoved. Mm-hmm. It's so freeing, and like we talk about his will for your life, and it's like his will is that you would be loving and kind and patient and gentle and self-controlled. And if you're worried about somebody that comes out and does something like this to the point of fear, you're not really, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not really how he didn't build it so that you would be rattled by that.
Right. I think it just occurred to me, but there's another place in the Bible I think I'm tracking with your message here. An example is when the Israelites they find themselves geographically between two mountain ranges, and in front of them is the Red Sea. And the Pharaoh's army comes behind them, and the people start panicking. And God speaks to Moses on how you're to lead them. because they can't go out the way they came. They're completely walled in. A cool part of this that I heard long ago is the actual area where they were in is in that tongue it was called Pi Hiroth, and that place in our language would be known as the place of freedom. So the Bible is getting at their greatest place of freedom is where they, from a human standpoint, can't do anything. They have to wholly depend upon God to open up a door where there otherwise wasn't a door. And this is what God charges Moses with. And he says, tell the people this. He says, I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't have it right in front of me, but there's two things to get out of it. Number one, he said, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And then he says, you will no longer see the armies of Pharaoh after this day. And then he commands them to go forward. And I think that those two things pair really well with what you're saying, because you're coming up from the angle of like, we just stand still because God's got this. It's a freeing thing to know how powerful our God is and how this is just a small fry over here. But I think what I was trying to get at earlier is you still go forward. You don't necessarily infight. They didn't have to fight the Pharaoh army. Mm-hmm. There was no fighting that happened. They were just delivered by God on the other side. And when Pharaoh tried to go through that same door, God closed it. It killed all of the Egyptian armies. So that same kind of freedom, we can feel that same way in today's world.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of that when you were talking about that, about how David had the opportunity with all the armor, and the world said, protect yourself in this way. And our thing now is kind of the same thing. It's like we need to change every system to fit our needs. We need to use the world systems in our favor in order to be better. And David kind of said, well, no, he's like, he thinks about it for a second and he goes, no, I'm getting rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
Throws off all that. And he goes and he faces the giant. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like, and you know what I mean? It's like that kind of confidence. Like, no, if the Lord said it, you can take it to the bank.
Yeah. And think about this too. The world will look at us today and kind of laugh at us the same way Goliath did. He laughed at David and says, what am I, a dog? You're coming at me with sticks?
Yeah.
Like even the enemy's laughing. They can have a good laugh. It'll be a greater fall.
Laugh it up, dummy.
Yep. And I got to point this out too, because some of you may have heard this many times before, but I think it's worth repeating that. I think it's so cool, the fact the Bible lists that he got hit in the forehead with David's stone, and then he didn't fall backwards from a recoil like you would think. He actually fell forward. And I've heard it put many times that it's because it was God that ultimately put the giant down. It wasn't just David. David was obedient, hit right where he was supposed to, and God took care of the rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, wherever you're at today, if you're worried about the Satanists, just be obedient in what God's called you to do. He'll take care of the rest.
Indeed. I see a lot of nervousness about the way things are today.
And you don't want panic.
And you don't want that. You don't want to allow the devil a foothold in your life in that way. And that's kind of what I'm most motivated by when I read this, is not really my reaction to it, because I already sort of know where I stand on it. I know where my faith is. I struggle with faith in many areas, but not in this. You know what I mean? I think this is like one of those things where I just go, oh, that's kind of entertaining, I guess, or it's weird. And like I say, I'm weird. I keep saying that, but I see other Christians, particularly ones that are much older than me, get nervous about this.
Right. Yeah. Where are we headed?
Where are we headed? Where's the America of my childhood and everything like that? And I that's a very, very poignant question. But anyway, all that to say, and I'll end the episode with this: it's cool to be faithful. It's cool to be calm under situations like that, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Right? The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. Oh, wait, peace? Okay. Patience? Okay, I can get with that. Kindness? I can get with that. Right? Gentleness? I can get with those things. None of this says when you hear about something, shake to your very core.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. None of that. It's like, just be cool. Move forward faithfully, like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Keep stepping forward faithfully, but it's the fact that you're faithful in this matter that allows you to step forward.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you're not afraid of what's flanking you,
Yeah.
you're just going to
The
step
peace
forward.
of God is helping you stand still without being panicked, but still being able to move forward. It kind of sounds like two different things, but it's important because before you can ever move forward, you got to learn to stand still.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Life and Faith podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review on your favorite platform, and sharing it with friends and family. Your support helps us continue spreading the gospel of faith, hope, and love. Connect with us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many others to stay updated on our latest episodes. See the link in the show notes for all our social media channels. And until next time, it is our hope you'll commit yourself to an even deeper life and faith.